I feel like at some point he's gonna call me a clown. That's his like go-to.
I'll be like, that's me.
135 pounds. 135.1 is official.
It's different levels. You know what I mean? It's definitely different levels when you.
Jake Paul has built his career around confidence and controversy. But recent footage of Gervonta "Tank" Davis, looking noticeably bulked up, seems to have even him a little uneasy. As clips of Davis's intense training and stronger physique spread online, fans began to wonder if Jake might have underestimated the lightweight champion's transformation. Known for his explosive power and sharp accuracy, Davis now appears closer to a natural welterweight, sending a clear signal that he's not here for show, but to dominate. Sources close to Paul suggest that the YouTuber-turned-boxer is beginning to feel the heat, realizing that this version of Tank may be far more dangerous than anyone initially thought. As the countdown to their November 14th showdown continues, both fans and analysts are stunned by Davis's physical evolution. Once known for his compact 5'5" frame and lightning speed, the lightweight star has added serious muscle, appearing stronger, quicker, and more intimidating than ever before. During their fiery Miami face-off, where Davis shoved Paul, the contrast between their builds became impossible to ignore. Paul, the cruiserweight, versus Davis, now a compact powerhouse. The moment only fueled speculation that Jake's trademark confidence might be cracking under the weight of facing a fighter who's not only skilled, but now visibly more powerful. Davis has long been respected for his knockout strength, speed, and high fight IQ. But his latest transformation has taken him to another level entirely. Training footage reveals broader shoulders, thicker arms, and a more defined core, all while maintaining his trademark agility. This isn't a cosmetic change or a PR stunt. Davis isn't just bulking up to look impressive. He's preparing his body to dominate from the opening bell.
Right? Who's not a professional fighter. What happens? What happens? That's what would sell it. I know what the size difference is what creates the problem. The optics, the look, the reality. I mean, you got one guy who's fights at 135 pounds, and you got another guy who fights at 200. I mean, just that alone, yeah. But you also, and I'm not saying I want this or I like this when I heard it. No, I didn't like it, to be honest, for the optics and everything else I just said. But you do have one guy who, yeah, he's smaller, but he's a top fighter, he can punch, and he's fighting a guy who's not a top pro fighter, who's bigger. What if he hits him on the chin?
In a recent interview, a UFC bantamweight champion didn't hold back, saying Davis is levels above Jake Paul when it comes to skill, timing, and fight intelligence. While he acknowledged Jake's size and reach advantages, he dismissed them as meaningless against a fighter like Tank. who remains undefeated and is feared for his knockout ability. He also criticized the commission's decision to classify the bout as an exhibition, arguing that it undermines the competitive spirit and seriousness of the event.
What do you think of him and Tank?
I enjoy these fucking stupid spectacles. I enjoy them. I'm excited for it. The controversy, the press conference, the weigh-ins. Imagine those two stand next to each other.
Yeah.
Dude, Jake is a big motherfucker. Basically, like you two standing next to each other. Like if you guys stood up, it looks like that. Steiny's a little bit taller than Gervonta.
But I'm a feisty bro. It's not about the size of the dog, it's about the size of the what?
Still, many observers view the fight less as a traditional title bout and more as a crossover event, an entertainment spectacle blending celebrity and sport. This perception has sparked ongoing debate about fairness, safety, and how such fights impact the credibility of boxing's strict weight class system.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pound. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
Experts argue that most of Jake Paul's fights lack real competitive balance or logical matchmaking. Many see them as being designed more for viral buzz and attention than genuine sporting merit. Rather than challenging opponents who match him in style or weight, Jake often goes for unusual or risky pairings. To purists, this makes his fights exciting spectacles, but not serious boxing contests.
Paul won the fight, but yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best.
Jake Paul officially weighed in at 199.5 lbs as a cruiserweight, while Gervonta "Tank" Davis last competed at 133.5 lbs in the lightweight division. The vast weight difference led the Georgia State Athletic Commission to reject the original fight venue due to safety concerns, forcing the event to relocate to Miami. Although the exhibition now has a 195 lbs cap, Davis's recent muscle gain suggests he's closing the gap strategically. Still, Paul's natural size advantage remains significant, which could affect both punching power and durability once the bell rings. This matchup truly pits size versus skill, making it one of the most unconventional and talked about fights in recent boxing history.
those little teeny weeny dudes. So that's going to be very fun and interesting to watch how that goes down. Now, on the other side, you know what Jake Paul's going to do. He don't have no consciousness. He doesn't have a conscience about what he's trying to do. He's going to go in there try to hurt a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. He don't care. He wanted to Nate. He's way bigger than Nate Jones when he fought Nate Jones. You think he didn't care about hitting Nate Jones upside the head? He's definitely going to be looking to try to get as much as he can get off on Gervonta Davis and I see him trying to run up on him, trying to maul him, trying to grab him, trying to club him, trying to do all kind of craziness, man. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Now, let me tell you what I really hope, and I haven't seen for this particular card, but I know that I know it's going to be good, which is the undercard. The undercard for the Canelo Alvarez fight and Terrence Crawford fight is absolutely horrendous. There's nothing on the thing that would make you want to watch to tune into that thing 2 seconds before the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford takes place. There's nothing on that card. So this fight for Gervonta or this exhibition for Gervonta and Jake Paul is probably going to have a lot of MVP fighters on there.
Ryan Garcia compared this event to other controversial boxing spectacles, such as Mike Tyson's late career exhibition fights, matchups fans didn't necessarily ask for. Garcia admitted that many viewers don't want to see Davis versus Paul either, but said the sport often moves forward with these kinds of events because of hype and money. He emphasized that Davis is much smaller than Jake, making the fight inherently uneven, but concluded that in today's entertainment-driven boxing world, hype often wins over fairness.
Bro, that's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like the Mike Tyson, low-key was a disgrace, but we accepted it, but
yeah,
he was 60 years old. I mean,
right.
The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter.
Yeah.
Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight.
Former world champion Carl Frosch didn't mince words, calling the entire situation an absolute joke. Frosch revealed that a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua deal was reportedly 99% complete, but instead, Paul shifted his attention to Davis, a fighter literally half his size. Frosch said this move proves Jake is more focused on creating headlines and shock value than testing himself against legitimate heavyweight competition.
Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been played? Let me know what you think, but the AJ fight with Jake Paul's finished. Gervonta Davis, fake Paul, November. I don't know what's going on in the world of boxing. This is an absolute joke. What next for AJ? We'll get into this, and there's so many questions I want to get into in the next episode, but hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick update because the news has just come in, and I'm just trying to relax and play a bit of golf, and I can't. I've got to get it off my chest. I'm going to add it to this video. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit like, share, and subscribe to the best channel in the business, Froch on Fighting, and we'll see you very soon.
Three-division undisputed champion Terrence Crawford also voiced skepticism. He sees the Paul versus Davis fight less as a genuine contest and more as a stylized sparring session given the drastic size difference. Crawford admitted that Davis is a phenomenal talent, fast, explosive, and technically sound, but he worries that Paul's larger frame could easily shift the balance. If Jake lands a clean shot, his extra weight and reach could turn the fight's momentum in an instant.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Jake Paul has been rewriting boxing's rulebook on his own terms. By investing his own money into promotion and storytelling, he's transformed what many once dismissed as a sideshow into a serious draw. His financial power doesn't just fund fights, It magnifies them, attracting new audiences and major media attention. Traditionalists may scoff at his unconventional path, but there's no denying the results. More fans, bigger paydays, and renewed interest in a sport that had long needed a spark. The very fact that this unlikely matchup exists proves just how far Jake Paul is willing to go to challenge norms and turn bold ideas into reality.
Perspective. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense, and we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, you know, trying to push toward his goal of you know, ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. You know, Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years. So it's a weird spot to be in for him, for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nikisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility and they were really starting to work on it.
In contrast, analysts like Wade Plem argue that Jake Paul has actually revived boxing's popularity by drawing in audiences who might never have cared about the sport before. He highlights that Jake's biggest impact has been among younger fans who crave entertainment and story-driven fights. Even if controversial, Plem believes the sport's wider visibility outweighs concerns about tradition. Vargas Jr. agrees, saying the unpredictability of Paul's matchups keeps fans engaged. In his view, the shock factor alone makes people talk. And in boxing, that attention is priceless, whether it's positive or negative.
So I think that the Misfits brings a different element. Obviously, there's chaos and all of these things, and it's not the most buttoned up and it's not the most high level, but there are moments where you have some really competitive fights. And even with the Jake and Gervonta thing, it's like, is it the best thing for boxing? That's boxing's fault, right? Like, if you're going to complain about it, point the finger the other way, because everybody else did it. You guys put yourselves in this position where these kind of fights are more interesting than some of your world title fights. And that's really, really sad, I know, but that's where we're at. And is it Jake's fault for being like, yeah, this is what people want to see, I'm going to do it? Yeah. Is it Gervonta Davis's fault? Maybe a little bit, because he's a world champion. Yeah. Give up your belt. To me, it should be give your belt up, right? You're saying to the world, you don't want to fight Shakur Stevenson, you don't want to fight Lamont Roach, so give the belt up. That's fine. Go do that. Okay. Say you're done at the highest level. Say you have no interest in being a world champion, and I'm okay with it. Yeah. But outside of that, man, I mean, it's a money fight and it's an exhibition. Everybody, I think, kind of knows what that brings in. So, yeah, I don't really have a problem with it, but at the same time, boxing needs to get its stuff together, so this isn't the most popular thing, you know?
Trainer BJ Flores believes the Davis fight is a smart strategic move for Jake Paul. He argues that Jake's natural size and growing skill set make him more suited to cruiserweight or heavyweight competition. By taking on a decorated name like Tank Davis, Paul isn't just chasing money, he's building credibility. Flores sees this as a stepping stone, a calculated move to boost Jake's reputation and open doors to tougher, more meaningful fights in higher weight divisions.
That's a funny story. So one of my good friends, Armani, he has been working with Jake Paul for the last 2 years. Oh. There was a little time where Shane wasn't there with Jake, and Armani called me up and said, hey, BJ, will you come down to Big Bear and spar with Jake? And I'm like, you want me to spar with Jake? I'm thinking to myself, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's beating up all his sparring partners. We come, I was like, all right. I mean, fine, I'll go down there and do it. I have been inactive. I haven't done anything for like 8 months. But I was like, okay, I'll go down there. So we spar a couple times. After that, they decided I was too big for him. And, you know, it's better if we just, you know, not do it. And, you know, then they asked me if I would be interested in like working the mitts with them and helping him with the combinations, because I was hitting him with some, you know, some combinations they hadn't seen before. And I said, we can teach him all those things and have him doing all those things. And so I started working the mitts with him and helping him out on the mitts. And he told his trainers and everybody, they're like, man, I want BJ around for the entire camp because I'm getting better. My job is like Shane does the advice in the corner and I do the mitts.
Meanwhile, Jake Paul responded to the growing criticism around the Davis fight with one of his signature stunts, smashing a tank-shaped cake in front of cameras. The moment was theatrical and clearly planned, meant to mock Davis and control the storyline leading up to the fight. Instead of letting the media shape the narrative, Jake created his own spectacle using humor and drama to keep himself in the spotlight. The act might seem childish to some, but in Jake's world, controversy equals attention, and attention sells. So what do you think? Can Jake Paul handle this new, stronger version of Tank Davis? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.